It was a misty morning in a quiet Yoruba village. The sun had not yet found its courage to rise, and the air smelled of wet dust and smoke from early cooking fires. Through the narrow path walked a young girl named Adeola, a basket of roasted groundnuts balanced neatly on her head. She was only 17, but life had already taught her the rhythm of survival. Each morning she woke before dawn, roasting her groundnuts over a small charcoal pot, humming to herself as the fire cracked and sighed. Her mother had fallen ill, and her father had long gone with the tide of wanderers who left for the city. So, Adeola sold groundnuts, moving from one corner of the village to another, smiling through hunger and exhaustion. Sometimes, children would follow her, chanting playfully, "Groundnut oh! Fresh groundnut oh!" And Adeola would laugh, tossing one or two nuts to them as if she carried abundance itself. But that morning, something different lingered in the mist. As she walked past the old shrine road, she saw a blind man sitting by the roadside. His clothes were torn, his bowl empty. Without hesitation, Adeola knelt beside him. "Father, will you take some groundnuts?" she asked. The man smiled, though his eyes never found her face. "My child," he said, "I cannot see, but I can feel kindness." She placed a small packet of nuts into his palm and poured water from her gourd so he could drink. When he finished, he whispered a blessing, words that carried more weight than gold. Old man's voice, deep, echoing slightly. "The road will test you, but remember, kindness returns home." Adeola smiled, thanked him, and continued down the road. She didn't know that her life had already begun to change by mid-morning. The market square had come alive. Women shouted prices over the noise of goats and laughter. Smoke from roasted corn twisted through the air. Adeola found her usual corner near the well. She spread a small mat, placed her basket, and began to sing her trading song. Adeola, singing lightly. "Groundnut oh, sweet and fresh oh. Buy for your children, buy for your joy." People stopped to listen. Her voice had a way of painting warmth in the air. Even those who had no money stopped just to smile. Among them was Marank, another young seller who hawked fried plantain chips. They often joked that one day they would open a shop together. Marank, cheerful. "Adeola, your song will soon make you a queen." Adeola laughs. "Then you'll be my chief singer." Their laughter mixed with the hum of the market, two girls clinging to hope in a world that rarely noticed them. But as the afternoon drew on, dark clouds gathered. The market women hurried to cover their goods. Rain came suddenly, heavy and wild. Adeola snatched her basket and ran for shelter under a neem tree. Beside her, a wealthy trader woman struggled with her load, boats of cloth, spilling and soaking. "Agent." Without thinking, Adeola rushed to help her, gathering the wet fabric and covering it with her own wrapper. The woman stared, shocked. "Child, you would spoil your only cloth for me." Adeola smiled through the rain. "It will dry again, more." When the storm passed, the woman offered her some coins, but Adeola refused. She only said, "Just pray my mother's health returns." The trader promised she would, then left in her carriage, her heart heavier with thought. That night, Adeola sat beside her mother's mat, fanning her slowly. The older woman coughed weakly but smiled. "Mother," hoarse whisper. "My child, your hands smell of roasted nuts and good deeds." Adeola. "Sleep, Mama. Tomorrow I will sell more and buy your medicine." She didn't know that tomorrow would not be just another market day. The next morning, the mist returned, thicker than before. Adeola walked the same path, her feet leaving soft marks in the wet soil. But this time, the road felt longer. The same blind man was gone, only the faint trace of his footprints remained. At the market, strange whispers filled the air. The wealthy trader from yesterday had come again, in her fine carriage, surrounded by servants. She looked around and finally spotted Adeola by the well. The crowd turned as she approached. "Trader woman, commanding but warm. Are you the girl who sheltered my cloth yesterday? Adeola, hesitant. Yes, ma. The trader studied her face, eyes honest, clothes patched. Then she said, follow me. The crowd gasped. Some murmured that Adeola would be punished for something. Others guessed fortune awaited her. She followed quietly, her heart pounding. The trader took her to a large compound near the edge of the village, walls painted white, flowers blooming along the fence. Inside, servants moved briskly. Trader woman. You helped me without asking. I will help you without warning. She led Adeola to a small storeroom and handed her a new wrapper, a basket, and some coins. Trader woman, gentle. Use this to grow your trade. Come back when you have doubled it. Adeola bowed, tears forming. May your kindness never dry, Ma. The woman smiled, watching as Adeola left, her steps lighter than air. Days turned into weeks. Adeola's trade flourished. Her roasted nuts became famous across nearby villages. She saved every coin, bought medicine for her mother, and began teaching little children how to count using groundnuts. And every morning, she still passed the old shrine road, leaving a few nuts by the stone where she once met the blind man. Kindness returns home, she would whisper. But not all eyes were happy to see her rise. Jealous traders began to whisper. How can a poor girl grow so fast? Maybe she used charms. Rumors spread like harmattan fire. Soon, even the elders summoned her for questioning. Elder voice, stern. Adeola, people say your groundnuts are bewitched. Adeola, shocked. Baba, they are only roasted with salt and love. But envy has sharp teeth. That evening, her stand was overturned, her coins stolen. She wept quietly beneath the same neem tree where she once found shelter. As the rain fell, she looked up and whispered, God of my fathers, why does kindness suffer? A flash of lightning revealed a figure in white, standing far down the road, still and silent. Adeola blinked, and the figure vanished. But something stirred in her heart, a calm she could not explain. She gathered her empty basket and walked home through the storm. That night, as thunder rolled over the village, the groundnut seller prayed again, not for revenge, not for wealth, but for strength to keep doing good. And somewhere, beyond the rain and the dark, the spirits of the ancestors smiled. Years passed, and the small Yoruba village began to change. The red dust roads that once carried barefoot traders now led to painted houses and small schools. And on one of those bright mornings, a carriage stopped beside the signboard that read, Adeola Community School. A woman stepped down. Her face calm, her eyes filled with quiet strength. It was Adeola, the groundnut seller. She looked around, at the laughter of children, the smell of roasted corn, the hum of new life. And her heart filled with gratitude. Years ago, she had walked these same roads with a basket on her head. Now she returned with a gift in her hands, education, hope, and kindness. The children ran to her shouting her name. She smiled, bent low to their level, and said softly, Always be kind, it is kindness that opens doors even when strength cannot. Later that day, Adeola walked alone to the old riverbank. The same river that once watched her cry, now calm and golden under the sun. She knelt by the water and opened a small cloth pouch. Inside was the same white cowrie shell given to her by the blind man long ago. She placed it on a flat stone, whispering, Thank you, for teaching me that giving never ends. A butterfly landed beside it, wings bright as morning light. Adeola smiled, feeling peace settle deep within her heart. When she returned home, her mother sat beneath the old mango tree. Her hair now silver, her smile gentle as always. Adeola knelt and placed her head on her mother's lap. They sat together, saying little, for some love needs no words. The next morning, Adeola walked through the market once more. Women called out prices, children chased one another, and the air was full of life. Then, through the crowd, she saw Marank, her friend from the old days. Older now, with wrinkles of wisdom on her face. They hugged and laughed, sharing roasted groundnuts like the old times. And Adeola said, smiling, "The road was long, my sister, but the dust led me home." Back at the school, Adeola stood before her students. She wrote on the blackboard, "Kindness is a seed." A small girl raised her hand. "Teacher, were you ever poor?" she asked. Adeola paused, smiling gently. "Yes," she said, "I sold groundnuts. But I never sold my heart." The children laughed, and their voices filled the air like a song. That evening, elders came to visit. Old faces that once doubted her now bowed with respect. One of them spoke quietly. "Forgive us, daughter. We did not see your light." Adeola bowed deeply in return. "There is nothing to forgive, Baba," she said. "We all learn through time." And in that moment, peace returned to the village. When night came, the village square was alive with music and laughter. Lanterns swung from tree branches, drums echoed, and stories filled the air. A storyteller sat by the fire, children gathered around him. He began. "Once upon a time, there was a young girl who sold groundnuts." Adeola listened quietly from the crowd, smiling through tears. Her story had become a lesson for others. Later, she walked alone toward the forest edge. The moonlight bathed the trees in silver light. And there, ahead of her, stood a faint glowing figure. A woman dressed in white, peaceful and bright. Adeola stopped, her heart calm. The voice came softly through the night breeze. "You kept your heart open, child. And because of that, your name will never fade." The figure disappeared into the moonlight. Adeola's lamp burned brighter as she walked home. At dawn, she stood on the hill overlooking her village. The rising sun painted the land gold. Palm trees waved gently, smoke rose from distant cooking fires. Adeola whispered, "From groundnuts to grace." She closed her eyes, smiling, the wind lifting her wrapper like wings. Years later, another storyteller sat by the same riverbank. Children listened with wide eyes as he told her tale. And beside him, half buried in sand, lay the same white cowrie shell. Untouched, shining softly under the morning sun. He ended the story saying, "The hand that gives never withers." The children clapped. The butterfly fluttered by. And somewhere in the wind, a faint voice whispered, "Groundnut oh, fresh groundnut oh." Thank you for listening to A Groundnut Seller. Follow us for more amazing African stories that touch the heart. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps our stories alive.